Welcome to the Josh Hall Web Design Show. Helping you build better websites and create a web design business that gives you freedom and a lifestyle you love.
Hello, friends. Welcome into the podcast. This is episode 161. So if you are somebody who is thinking about starting your web design business, or if you have a side hustle that you really want to take full time, especially this year, because this episode is coming out early 2022, this is your episode. I'm super excited to bring in one of my web design students who is early in her journey, in her career in web design, but is killing it and doing such a good job. She's doing such a good job in her first year of her business that I wanted to bring her onto the podcast to share what she's learning in real time. This is Jamila Jones, who is a freelance web designer based out of the UK. And as I just mentioned, she's doing an incredible job. And the reason I wanted to have her on, particularly right now to kick off this year, is because I've had a lot of recent guests on the podcast who have been seasoned entrepreneurs. I recently had Troy Dean, who is a WordPress legend. He's been in the game for decades now. I've had James Farmer, who is the CEO of WPMU Dev. He was on recently as well. So I've had some, really seasoned web design entrepreneurs. But what I find equally valuable and equally as important is to hear from somebody who's early in the journey. Because when you get to running a business a decade or more, I find that sometimes those first important lessons in the first year or so of your business, they get lost. They evaporate over time, or you just can't remember quite what it was like when you're just wanting to get your first client. A lot of people talk about getting to 6 and 7 figures. And for those of you who are just starting, I remember this feeling like I can't even fathom 7 figures. I just want to get my first client. That's why I wanted to do this episode for you. Jamila is doing such an amazing job in her business, which is called The Virtual Click. I actually highly recommend checking out her site, thevirtualclick.com, for some inspiration. You'll hear a little bit more about her brand name and why she chose that name and her background, but she was awesome. She talks in depth about and really opens up about her experience with getting her first few clients, how she learned design and the web design process, and what resources she's learned from. As I mentioned, she is a student of mine, but she's also learned from a lot of other web entrepreneurs as well, which is great. And a lot of colleagues who have subsequently been guests on this show, she's taken their courses as well. And she's really learned so much and elevated her brand and elevated her first year of her business. I just think she is a shining example of how to get into web design and how to do it right in year one. So you're going to take so much from this conversation. I know it, from getting clients to running your business to, scaling on a lower level, to processes and all sorts of things I'm excited for you to take from this episode. So really, really excited. Before we dive in, I do want to help you. If you are interested in, again, either starting your web design business or going from side hustle to full-time, and you're just a little terrified and it's daunting, you don't know what to do, where to go, I do have a 10-step free action plan that will help give you the proven path I recommend when starting your business. Just go to joshhall.co/start and you can pick that up. You can just let me know what email to send that to, and I will send you my 10-step action plan, which is free. It is what I would recommend, the path that you follow to get started in web design. And without further ado, here is Jamila. Get ready to have some fun and get ready to learn a lot, especially for those of you who are early on in your journey. Enjoy. Jamila, welcome onto the show. Awesome to have you on. Thanks for taking some time today.
Oh, thanks, Josh. I'm so glad to be here.
Or thanks for taking some time tonight, right? It's almost getting close to evening time for you, right?
Yeah, it's 4:00. The sun will be setting soon. So yeah, it's 4 p.m.
4 p.m. Okay, awesome. Yeah, I appreciate you taking some time later in the day. Let's start out with that, Jamila, maybe where you're based out of. And then I'm curious, now that you're fairly new into web design, when people ask you, what do you tell them?
Right. So I'm Jamila, and I'm based in the UK, United Kingdom, and I live in a city called Leicester, a sports city. And I tell them that I'm a freelance web designer, and I help small to medium business owners to get more visible online by building high converting websites so they can get more customers.
Beautiful.
So that's what I tell them.
What a great little condensed, concise elevator pitch. I love it. And I meant to
Yeah,
ask,
it may change down the road, as I keep changing my niche and whatever. We never know.
of course. Yeah. But what a great way to start. And I actually meant to ask, I tend to
Thanks.
emphasize the I in your name, Jamila. Do you pronounce it Jamila? Is that right?
Yeah, Jamila. Some people say Jamilia, but it's Jamila. It means
Okay.
It means beautiful in Arabic. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Now I'm curious, based in the UK, have you lived in the UK all your life, or what has your story looked like?
Yeah, I was born in the UK, United Kingdom. I was born in Bristol, and now I live in the city of Leicester, like I said. But yeah, I was born here. My parents are from the Caribbean of Jamaica, and that's so yeah.
Oh,
right, yeah.
Awesome. That is on my bucket list. I have
Jamaica.
Ever since
Beautiful.
ever since I saw Cool Runnings, I want to get to Jamaica sometime. That's on the bucket list
beautiful.
for sure. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, that just encouraged me to maybe put that in the plans here as soon as we can leave the kiddos for a little bit. Well, awesome, Jamila. I'm so excited to chat with you about this. You're early on in the journey. It's been really cool for me as your coach, and you've been through some courses, and you're part of my web design club. It's been really cool seeing what you've done so far early in your journey. Like I said before we went live here, I really enjoy talking with people all across the spectrum, from, advanced experts in the industry to people who are, a few years into it, and people who are just starting, because I think sometimes the best lessons you get early on, you can kind of forget about, or you're so detached from those, which is why I think it's so important to hone in on some of those first few lessons learned when it comes to building sites, getting clients, and building your business. So I figured we'll just have a fun, open chat about that. I think it would be great to get a little bit of context from you, Jamila. When did you officially start your business, and what were you doing before you got into web design?
So I officially started just before COVID. Yeah, I
thought it was about a year or so.
Yeah, all right. So before that, I was actually in the travel industry. I built a website. I was in a partnership with somebody, and then because of COVID, as you know, I couldn't get any more bookings, and so I had to change. So I thought, what can I do? So I thought I'm going to try and start building websites. So I started off actually as a virtual assistant.
Oh, okay.
I did, yeah. I went into the VA. I thought, let me try do some admin, because my background is in admin and business, and I love tech. So I took a course on how to become a VA, and then I had to niche down. It's like they said, pick a niche, and I thought websites. I like building websites. I like WordPress. I've done a few. So I thought I'd give it a go and see. So that's when I officially said, right, I changed it so that's why the name is Virtual Click, because I was a virtual assistant. But now, it's the same name, but I'm a freelance web designer.
That's what's cool about your brand name, though, Virtual Click, which is your website is thevirtualclick.com if anyone wants to check it out. What's cool about that is you're right. It does work. It totally works for really anything online, because click.
Yeah. And I did put that thought into it, actually. I did actually I want to work from home. I want it to be virtual. And it was just the mouse. You should have seen my first logo. It was awful. It was the mouse with a long lead on it, But yeah, so I took some time thinking about the brand and all that. And I came up with a nice logo. And yeah.
Well, and I was curious too. So when you thought about web design more seriously, what was your experience up to that? You had said that you had messed around with WordPress and done some sites. Was that just like hobby, just playing around since you enjoyed tech, or did you do anything for friends or family before that?
Yeah, I came across WordPress back in 2019. I was teaching at the time, and I wanted to put I wanted a blog so I can put my resources on there. So I did that. And then I'm also involved in a charity. So I said, I could build I had a go at building a website, and that didn't come out too bad. Although I didn't know anything about strategy or anything like that then, right? So I did that. And then once I started to really take it serious, like I said, I got work from friends and referrals from them, and that really, so yeah, that's what happened.
So that's kind of the advice there, right? Is when you start, a lot of people always ask, and I understand the question, how do I start getting clients? You did it the right way. You start with your personal network, people who already know, like, and trust you, friends, family. Yeah, they may not be the best ideal clients, but by golly, it's a great way to start. Often it's who they know. Did you find that as well, that once you started getting jobs through your personal network, that people they knew became clients? How is that kind of how that started?
Exactly. So like a friend of mine, she lives in Kenya, and she used to live in the United Kingdom, and she moved to Kenya, and she saw me on Facebook. I put up my profile that I was building websites now, and then she told her sister, and then her sister contacted me. And that's so I got her, and I built her a website for it's a e-commerce website. Sorry, yeah, I built one for her, so in Kenya. So, yeah.
See, this is why I love hearing real examples of this, because I preach it all the time. I tell people, start with your personal network. I'm sure you've heard me say that over and over, Jamila.
Yeah.
But to hear it actually play out for you just like that is awesome, because it works. That's an actual case study example. You put it out on Facebook. Your friend of yours, her sister reached out, and boom, there's a paying job. Like, that is literally how to start getting clients. It's honestly as simple as that, isn't it?
Yeah, most of the work that I have had is through referrals. And then I decided, because I could only do so many at one time, I decided to put out, when things were a bit slow, I put out on WhatsApp. I'm in a business group on WhatsApp, and I put out a little thing that I'm doing websites, with like a website, and I got 2 people came back to me, and one of them became a client, in the construction industry. So so that was how I got my first proper client.
I want to talk about that particular project, because we did a website review on that one in the Web Design Club, and I was really impressed with your design aesthetics and the conversion-based copy that you wrote and everything. I definitely want to dive into that, but I don't mean to say it's, super easy to get clients, but what I meant by saying that is just that you just have to put it yourself out there. And that is the best way to get started. So I'm so glad that you did that. And that was a good example of that. Now, I am curious, before we talk about some of the things you implemented to your business and how you actually started, getting some of these first few clients, when did you feel comfortable to start actually charging for your designs? Because this is a tricky thing when you get started. It's like, well, how many sites did I do for friends or family or freebies before I feel comfortable and like I'm offering enough value to charge for it? How long did that take you?
Oh God, it
doesn't have to be like exact by month or days or anything, but I'm just kind of curious.
Right, okay. No, actually, I did start charging, but it was a very small amount that I did charge, right? So one of the first websites I did, I think I don't want to say the price is embarrassing, right?
Oh, my first one was 300. So
okay, well, it was just a little bit under that.
Okay,
but at the same time, I said to myself that I'm going to get I'm putting it out there so that it can come back to me. So I got testimonials for it, and also to build up my portfolio. So that was the reason I had to start from somewhere, So yeah. So I would say before I started getting, I don't know. Like I said, I think from the very beginning I was charging, Josh, right? But then what I did, I started to, for each one, I started to increase. I put more on and started to increase, and but I still have a problem sometimes. I think to myself, I don't know if it's imposter syndrome or whatever. Should I be charging this amount? And it's probably, I should be charging more really, but I still struggle pricing, what my value really is.
Yeah. Well, I know we talked about this because we had a chat in the club about this with the construction site that you mentioned that I did review. It was a beautiful site. And I think I told you this sucker is at least worth $3,500, and I forget what you had charged for it, but it's okay. Like even if you're, half of that, you're still fairly new to the game. You're getting your feet wet. You're really kind of finding yourself and who you are in the web design game and what your strengths are, what you enjoy doing. So I think that's totally fine. I mean, honestly, when it comes to pricing, and I think this is a good rule of thumb for everyone just starting out, you're probably not going to feel too confident in your rates until you do it a few times and until you land a bigger project. But what that shows you and what it showed me was the projects that I was billing out for 500 to 1,000 to 1,500, those same projects, companies did pay me 3 to 4 to 5K, and they didn't bat an eye. So it did show me that, once I felt comfortable to actually put that number on a proposal, it can happen. And there's a lot of confidence that comes when you do land one of those. You're not going to land all of them, but there's something about like, wow, instead of me hustling and trying to get 5 websites done at 1,000, now suddenly I have one website I can focus on maybe for a month or something and just focus on that. So you're at a really exciting time, Jamila, because you're at like this cusp of, you've done a lot of great work in the first year or so of your business. And now with where you're at with your design, your copy, and just your tactics for building sites, you are definitely at the place where you can be charging the 3 to 4 to 5K. And I say that because I know this is almost like a free coaching segment as we get into this, but which I think this is kind of cool. It's a really fun chat. When I saw your design, I wasn't sure what to expect because everyone has different backgrounds with design and tech and everything, but I was honestly really impressed with that construction site. And I was like, wow, I was not expecting it to be this good. So I'm kind of curious with it. I mean, that is, let's just say what you designed within about a year for that construction site took me probably a good 3 to 4 years to get to that point. How did you do it so quick? Shed some light on the tips and tricks. And maybe we can, are you comfortable if we link that in the show notes, or do you need to keep that project, or do you need to keep that hidden for client purposes?
No, I think he'd be okay with it.
Okay, cool. Yeah. We'll link it in the show notes in case anyone wants to see it. But, how did you learn how to build such a nice site in such a short amount of time? That's the question.
Oh gosh. Okay. So how did I start? I started off actually, like I said, I've been building for a while. I started off, my first site was with WP. Is it Bakery? Builders. I tried Elementor as well, but then I found Divi. Right. So Divi. So basically, I think that using Divi, right, and, customizing and looking at other templates and trying to emulate them or try to work out how they put them together. So I think that's what I did, and just practice, Josh, and so, and then finally I took a course as well. I took a design course. I don't know if I can say who with.
Sure. Feel free.
Yeah, I took the design course with Divi Lover.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I was going to say only my courses will be mentioned here. No, you're welcome to mention it. Yeah. Anya with Divi Lover is awesome. Yeah. She is a great designer.
Yeah. So I took that and I learned so much. So I applied a lot of what she taught when I was building that actual website, which is a big difference to the ones that I'd built before, So once you know about the hierarchy and the topography and the spacing and all that. So, So I think just practice, like I said, so.
Did you model, did you look at example sites? Because the term practicing, I think it's worthwhile talking about what that practicing is, because you can design things over and over, but I think unless you have a clear roadmap of how to practice or what to design, that can be tricky for some people. I always found a lot of confidence in just mimicking designs. Like if I saw a site that I really liked, I would just recreate that in Divi and then use that for a project. And then they loved it. And I was like, wow, it actually works and they love it. So let's keep on going. Is that kind of what you mean by practicing?
Yeah. So that's what I would do, is that I would look at different types of websites, different ones. And if I saw something that I liked, then, I would try to blend it in with what I was doing at that time. So yes, that's exactly what I meant.
Gotcha. Now, as we all know, in web design, there's so many things you can learn, from design, conversion, SEO, copy, content, page speed, all these other things. You've talked a little bit about tools. I do want to get into that, but I'm kind of curious. Did you feel overwhelmed even like last year when you started learning web design? And how did you decide on what to focus on in the beginning of what to learn?
Overwhelmed. Oh, I'm always feeling overwhelmed, Josh. Right. Yeah. So what did I decide to focus on? I started to focus on web design and SEO. I fell in love with SEO. And then I picked another service that, and I like all the things that I like doing, basically, I focused on. So, which is web design, SEO, and I like writing as well. So
yeah.
I've incorporated that into my services, which is content writing.
Okay.
Yeah. So
now, how did you decide? How did you discover that you enjoyed those? Did you just play around with all sorts of aspects of web design and come to those three that you really enjoyed? Because that's something that I found out later on in my journey. How did you come to that so quickly as far as what you enjoyed working on?
Okay, so when I was designing a website, obviously, as you're going along, it's like I had to learn the SEO, because I remember a while back when I first designed a website for myself, I had, I'm always going into little businesses. I had a little business. It was called Jamila's Accessories. And this was years back. I built a website. It looked great. It was fantastic. But at that time, I didn't know anything, Josh, about SEO and Google or any of that. And that was it. I didn't realize that Google, I had to connect it with Google. So now, forward on now, when I'm building, I started to learn more. And then I found out that when you're designing a website, you have to have SEO, otherwise no one's going to find you, right? So that's how I found out about it. And then I found out about keywords and optimizing the pages so people can find you, so that's what I liked. I like actually putting all that together. And so not just designing the website, but designing a website, like I said, which could be found. And so when I talk to customers, when I talk to clients, I could then tell them so that I not only build websites, but I can also, optimize it for you so you can get found online. So, yeah. And I think that's what I liked about it, is that I can combine the two, so upgrade my services that way as well.
And you're right. They do go hand in hand. And the good news is like, I don't love SEO, honestly. I don't love that aspect of it, but the basics, like the fundamental things that you need and should do on a website are pretty easy. Would you back me up in saying that once you know the basics, it's actually pretty common sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you don't know, but then you see, because like I said, I didn't know at the time when I first started, I didn't know anything about SEO, and I didn't know that then, but now I know.
And how do you know? How did you learn? What? Because you said you started learning. I mean, I know I'm sure a lot of this is trial and error and Google and maybe articles you're finding. But were there any supportive groups that you were a part of? Was there any training that you took for SEO? How did you learn the basics of SEO?
Yeah, so Google and YouTube, and also I took a course as well on SEO. And that,
Gotcha.
So that's why I liked. That's why I liked it.
What was the SEO course you took?
It was with Chase Rayner. I can't remember. Chase Rayner, I think his name is. Yeah, I took a course. He had. I joined his elite club for local SEO. I'm no longer in that now. But yeah, I took a course with Chase Rayner.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that, but that's what's really cool about web design is you find somebody who resonates with you and has something like that can help you get from point A to point B and have a good understanding of it. It saves a lot of time. I'm interested. It sounds like you have invested in yourself, and I know you've been through some of my courses, and you're investing in my club now, and I'm able to coach you there directly.
Yeah.
Where did this mindset of investing in yourself come into play? Because it sounds like you've done this early on to try to help fast track your journey, right?
At the beginning, no. At the beginning, I didn't, right, Josh?
Okay.
But then afterwards, right, I decided to definitely invest in myself. And once I did that, then I started to move on. And I probably spent quite a bit, but it's worth it, because trying to piece things together yourself, right, it took so long. It takes longer. But once I decided to invest in the design course, and that, I started to move forward. You can see by the website that I designed, which the one that you liked, So yeah, so definitely invest in yourself. I would always tell people to do that, and so that, because once you've invested in yourself, the steps are all laid out for you. It's so much more simpler and so much more saving time. And I am so happy that I'm in the Web Design Club, because that is brilliant. I can't believe that I've got access to you just like that. I'll message you and then you message me back, and I'm thinking this is great, and I'm in the group, in the actual club. There's so many. I was a bit overwhelmed at first when I first went in there, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, right, all these experts and everything, but they are brilliant in there. So I'm so glad that I've invested it, and I wish I'd done it from before, because now I feel that, I've got even though I've got my skills, but I've also got those skills from the other people as well, as in the actual club, which is really good.
Yeah.
So I can always fall back on them if I need any help with anything. So.
Well, gosh, you just gave me an amazing snippet to use. I might have to put that on the landing page for the club, because what you said is that fills me up, Jamila, because that is exactly why I wanted to create that. I wanted to have a place where I could be able to coach and just give you, advice when you have questions that maybe you don't want to put out publicly. Maybe you have a question about pricing that you don't feel comfortable posting in a Facebook group with 20,000 people, or even in the club. If it's, in the community, you want to just keep it like to me with a coach mentorship type of role. I think that is one of the main reasons I put that out there. So I'm super excited to hear that. And it's really cool for me because I see people come through courses, and that's awesome, but I often don't see the results. I don't see, unless I intentionally put an email out there to say like, hey, send me some results, in which case some people are busy and they either forget or don't have time. That's what's so amazing for me, is to see your journey progress step by step early in your journey. And like you said, you are early in the journey, but the club is filled with people who are right around the same zone as you, all the way to expert status, which is really cool. I think there's a nice give and take. I think that's equally as important in a web design journey, is to be in a place, whether it's my club or any sort of, membership, or even, I mean, technically you could do this in free Facebook groups, where there are people kind of above you and below you as far as experience goes. I think that's really valuable, because you can learn, but you can also share what you've learned. And even people who are brand new, it's amazing how much you actually know, particularly if you go through a course or a training, because suddenly what they know is now what you know. That is a really powerful thing. I think that's why you're making such great strides and such great progress really quick. So that's awesome, Jamila. I really appreciate you saying that. That is really, really cool to hear. And particularly, I think you came in and you were very open, and you were very transparent about what you're doing, and you put yourself out there. That's not easy to do when you're early on, but I think it sounds like you probably got some confidence from those courses and maybe previous projects. I actually am curious, where did some of your confidence early on come from? Was it the courses that you had been through? Was it doing some projects and actually seeing them being done and on the interwebs? Like, where did some of that confidence come from?
The confidence is coming from, let me think.
And I know it's still building, by the way. I know you're probably not like, I'm the most confident web designer ever, but.
No, I'm still working on my confidence, actually, Josh. And definitely the club has definitely helped with that. I've had to put myself out there. Okay, so designing websites, no one can see me. I'm designing a website, but then now comes the sales part. I have to put myself out there for sales. And I have, like I said, most of my work has been for referrals. So I thought, okay, I'm going to put myself out there. I need to make myself more visible. So this is what I'm trying to do right now. And this is why I'm here. I'm actually making myself more visible out there. And by doing so, I find my confidence is growing, because I didn't really like speaking in public, and that, but I've pushed myself to do that as well. And each time I've done that, my confidence is growing. And and also the feedback I'm getting for the websites, like when you told me that my website was worth that made me feel, right, okay, I'm going to up my game now. So and actually, like I said, being in the club as well, that's really helped, because if I doubt anything, what I'm doing, I can ask a question and they can give me guidance as well. So that really helps as well.
Yeah, that's great. What great lessons already with building confidence. It does. Confidence can come from a number of different ways, but what you said there, I think, is really common for web designers, particularly when it comes to just getting out of your comfort zone. It is interesting how getting out of your comfort zone builds confidence. And I maybe there's probably a lot of psychological things behind that, but I think when you do something that you're not comfortable with, or you don't feel like you might not be ready for, or it's just out of your zone of skill set or genius, or even just comfort zone, it does do something to you. It's like, I guess it's like anything, whether it's exercise and you know, if you do a marathon or a half marathon and something, like I did a half marathon, probably won't do one again, but I did one. And that really did change my mindset about what I can do and what I am able to, you know, push myself to do. But in business, it can be the same thing. It can be design, or it could be going to a networking group, or doing this podcast. You said before we went live, you said you're pretty nervous, but, you said you wanted to make it a goal to get out there more and make yourself more visible. And that is awesome. And I think after this chat, my hope is that we'll end this call in a little while and you will feel more confident than ever. And my hope for you, probably not a shocker, is that I'm excited to help you get better on camera and to put yourself out there more on your website too, and on the socials, which, you know, that's often easier than coming on to an interview or a podcast, because you can have time to edit, and you can make a little video that you have the time to make on your website and your socials. So great lessons there with confidence. I love that. Yeah.
Saying that, Josh, so I've set myself little goals to get more visible, and I've opened up a small little virtual click group on Facebook. It's a private group, it's hidden, it's women only. And I've got all the members of my team on there, and I've got some clients that I built websites for. And the idea is to get more visible, you know, on there. So I'm actually on there practicing, you know, and building up my self-esteem and my confidence. And so are the other members in the group as well. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Now you said team there. That caught me off guard. What does that look like? Okay.
So what I've done, Josh, right. Okay. When you said about being overwhelmed, definitely got overwhelmed. I got to a point where it was just too much, where I'm trying to do everything. My father recently came to live with me. He's 91 years of age.
Oh,
so
wow.
So the dynamics of the home change. So it's good that I work from home, so I'm able to do that as well. But running a business, as you know, on your own, it's really overwhelming. And even though I've just started, I knew that I can't carry on my own. So what I did, you sent out a webinar on scaling your business. So I don't think I'm ready to scale my business, but I knew that I couldn't do it on my own. So I took some of the elements from your webinar to start putting steps in place. So I'm starting to actually put some SOPs and try to automate automation. So I've been exactly what you said, to write down the steps that you're actually doing, and then trying to put some systems in place. And then what I've actually done is I have been networking, and I'm now working with some other freelancers. I have an editor, which is helping with my blog. So we're doing a collaboration together. Awesome. And I've taken on a Kickstarter, which is it's run by the government in the UK. It's for 16 to 24-year-olds who are at risk of long-term employment. So they give you the funding, right, to employ somebody. So I've got somebody starting on the 1st of December, and they're going to be doing my social media for me as well.
No kidding. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I've taken some elements on this. I thought to myself, I cannot do it on my own. I need some help. Yeah. So, and I've got one more person, which is an intern. She wants to be a online business manager. She's a VA, so she's helping me put some of those SOPs in place. So so they're actually in the group, and we're trying to build each other up.
Awesome. Well, a great example. First of all, you're very entrepreneurial. This is awesome. A great example, though, of scaling to a level that you want to do. A lot of people think about scaling and growing a team and then immediately go to like, oh man, I got to have overhead and payroll and I have to have 10 employees. That's not the case. Yeah. You can scale at whatever level you want. And I think what you're doing, which is really powerful, is a very key word you said in there, which is collaborations. You don't necessarily have to bring on somebody to handle the service in-house. You can collaborate with a partner or a colleague. And I know that's one reason you joined the club, was to have this network of people who, like, have you met, I don't know if you've met Michelle, my SEO gal in the club, but she can do your keyword research. Like,
I've contacted her already.
There you go. Boom. Like that is exactly.
We've had a conversation.
Awesome. Like, that's the thing. Like, if you don't want to do something yourself, partner up with somebody who is really good at that. And then you can work out how to do that on a project together. So that's awesome. And you mentioned that scaling training that I did. That is a free masterclass. I'll make sure we link that. I'm actually jotting down some links right now.
Very good. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that help. Yeah, it's a free masterclass. Anyone listening can pick up and go through.
Yeah, I've actually got your, you gave some free handouts.
Yeah.
With
the
it,
roadmap.
So
Did you do the roadmap?
Yeah. So I've got them all in front of me on my wall. I've put them in front of my desk.
Awesome.
So
that's
really
awesome. Me. Yeah. At the end of that masterclass, for anyone who wants to go through it, there's a download that's actually a part of my business course, which is the client roadmap, which is basic. That is an SOP. It's a standard operating procedure. It's a checklist of the whole client experience from start to finish. So I'm really glad to hear that worked out for you well, Jamila, and that you've got on your wall. There may be no better compliment for me than if somebody has put one of my checklists on their wall. That's like, does it get any better than that? I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's definitely helping me. My confidence has grown so much, and I thought I can do this. I don't have to scale to the 6 figures. I can just start implementing some small things, until I get there. Yeah,
gosh, that's awesome. Now, clients. You're at a place in your business where you're getting more confidence. You've gone through trainings, you've experimented, you've learned a lot about web design, SEO, copy, all the stuff that's involved with creating a nice, solid website that you can be building off of. And of course, the learning will never end. I'm still learning stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Let's talk about clients though. So now you're in this place. I'd love to talk about your strategy. You said you've got some goals for clients. A lot of your stuff has been referral based so far. Do you plan on doing any other outbound marketing like networking or social media? What does your client acquisition strategy look like moving forward now?
Yeah, I'm trying to put something together now. I mean, I haven't looked at it properly, but I thought I'm going to do, like I said, social media first, right? Social media. And focus on getting clients with email marketing. I don't know if I'm happy doing, is it cold sales where you email?
I don't know. Yeah. Cold calls.
So I think I don't feel like I want to do that. So I need to get a strategy in place for that. So I haven't actually looked at that properly yet, but I will be doing that. Yeah. So like I said, social media, and I'm going to do email marketing. And I'm thinking of when I get some more. So I've just I've nearly put up, your maintenance course. Mm-hmm. I did the maintenance course, you've upgraded it. So I've gone back and I've nearly finished it, and I'm going to put that up. So what I want to do is to have some opt-ins and a landing page, and maybe to get the sales and start marketing those actual different services that I'm doing.
Awesome. Yeah. I couldn't encourage you and everyone enough to get that recurring income going with hosting and maintenance for sure. It's the foundation of a web design business, and it'll open up so many doors for you moving forward. Yeah. I was kind of curious about, now that you're in this place of your business where you are, technically scaling at a lower level with what you want to do to help free yourself up, your bandwidth, your time. But now the question is, okay, how do I get a consistent pipeline of clients, which is what I'm really excited about, because referrals are awesome. Referrals are how I built my business, but I heard it said very eloquently that referrals are like rain. It's going to rain at some point, but sometimes you don't know when it's going to rain. So sometimes there's like a flood of referrals, and then you may have a dry season where for whatever reason, there's just no referrals coming in. So a proactive marketing approach is definitely key to at least have as a part of your strategy. And this is kind of coaching advice for you and everyone. Are there any networking groups in your area, or meetups, or any in-person type of business things that you're aware of?
That's the only thing I haven't done yet, is actually the physical networking because of COVID and online and that. But I have joined some networking groups on social media. and that, so I've been on a few of those.
Okay. And a lot of the in-person groups are doing like Zoom calls. Like my networking group went to Zoom all through 2020. So that's often an option too. I mean, I think some places, if there are still some harsh restrictions or if people aren't feeling comfortable, there are a lot of options like that for like online business groups, which is where I think you would, you'd find probably your quickest ROI would be to do something like that, particularly in your area, because if you're local, I mean, of course you can work with anyone, anywhere, but local businesses that get a chance to meet Jamila and know your story and know your background. And I think that could be pretty powerful. So that would definitely be kind of a challenge for you, is to maybe look into that as part of like an outbound intentional marketing funnel for you.
Yeah. I'm going to put some sort of strategy in place. I have to look at that. That's the next thing I'm going to do.
Okay. Well, let's see. We're recording this at the end of November. This will probably come out in the beginning of the new year. But at the time of recording this, I'm actually just about to lay out a complete guide for getting clients. So I will send that to you.
Yes, definitely. I need that. Right. Yeah, that's great.
Okay. That's good fire for me to get that going. I actually might start it next week because I'm planning on making it a free masterclass that anyone can go through. So, awesome. That's great, Jamila. Well, that is super exciting. What a cool path so far early in your journey. We've talked a lot about training. We've talked about a lot of, I think a lot of it has to do with mindset. I mean, it seems like belief, mindset of doing it. How important is that, particularly early on, the mindset and the belief in what you can achieve now and can achieve moving forward?
Yeah. I say my mindset is quite good until recently. My mindset, I visualize myself. I like visualize, to visualize things. Yeah. I'm into all of that. And I visualize myself when I started this business I saw myself on a beach. Yeah. And I had a phone in my hand and I was chatting to my team. Right. And I had a website. So some of the things that I visualize have come true. Okay, so they have come. They to me they've come true, but I've not reached that beach yet. And that is back. And actually, that beach is the some of my branding colors. The blue and the sand.
I was going to say this probably isn't like a British shore, right? This is probably like a nice Jamaican beach. Yeah.
No, not Jamaica, but a pretty nice beach because I've been to Jamaica, right? But wherever it is, right, it's a different person than I am now. It's a more confident person, and she's doing it, and I believe I'm getting there. But then when I started the web design, and then I got into your group, imposter syndrome kind of like hit a little bit, and also with being overwhelmed. And I started to like feel, there's the little voices inside of my head saying, what do you think you're doing? You're not, you can't do this, like all negative talk. I got to a point where I felt I needed to do something about it. So I actually reached out to a life coach, and the life coach I reached out to was, I built her a website actually. Yeah. And I knew her, and I reached out to her, and it was the best thing I ever did because it really helped to push me forward and to see where I was getting stuck. Because basically I love working. I was just working. And I wasn't, what do they call it? I was working, living to work, or was it working to live?
Okay. I was doing or you were living to work instead of working to live. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just focused on that, and everything else around me was just falling apart, and my confidence went down. And then I started working on my mindset, and talking to those little voices in my head and telling them, no, I am a confident person and whatever. So mindset, I would say, is the most important thing. First, to take care of your mind and taking care of any limiting beliefs that you have. So I make sure now that I keep a track of my mind. I don't want to get like that again. I'm sure I probably will do, but I want to make sure that, just as well as I'm putting strategies in place, I'm also putting strategies in place for my mindset as well. So to now, every single day, when I get up after I've prayed, I will do self-hypnosis, confidence building, which has really, really helped me. right? To keep away the negative thoughts that we all get.
Oh, sure.
And I'm constantly listening to positive talks on YouTube and all that, so yeah, mindset definitely.
That's awesome. Something really important you said there regarding imposter syndrome was that when you, whether it was my club or other groups and other networks, a part of web designers, you started feeling like an imposter. And this is really important because I think this is really common. While it is, as you've seen, and as you've already stated, so valuable for you to be in that club, it can be imposter syndrome inducing because suddenly you realize, oh, wow, now I'm in with people who know a lot more than me. And again, there are people who know less than you, but there's a lot of people who might know more. The trick though, and the reason I want to point this out is, and I think you've already realized this, is when it comes to imposter syndrome, you have to look forward in your lane and your journey. As soon as you start looking at everyone else around you and focusing on them, that is when imposter syndrome comes in. And the comparison, that is really honestly like imposter syndrome is such a popular topic. We've talked about it a lot on the podcast, but honestly, the key to ending it is ending comparison. Like I'm so glad you've already talked about the club and the way that you're using it. Like you're getting inspiration, you're getting help, you're getting encouragement. But as soon as you start looking at these other designers and thinking, they're so much better than I am, they know so much more, how am I going to get to that point? Then suddenly it starts to shift and that imposter syndrome creeps in. But if you stay in your lane, you look forward, and I'm just saying this as a broad general rule of getting over imposter syndrome, and you just look at the progress that you have made, that is what's key. That is how to end imposter syndrome. But it sounds like, did you kind of realize that maybe you were looking at other people too much and comparing yourself, or did you just kind of come about that naturally that I
compared myself, especially like I said, when I did that website. I didn't have that feedback until you gave me the feedback and you told me it was okay. But then also it was comforting to know in the club, because a thread was opened up about imposter syndrome, and there were, other web designers in there who's been designing websites for years, and very skilled, and they still were suffering sometimes with imposter syndrome. Yeah. So it showed me that it doesn't matter how far you get, you can still get imposter syndrome. So it's good to just take care of that, your mindset, and definitely don't compare, and just be true to, I'll just be true to myself, and, believe in myself.
Well, that's awesome. And then if you look at your progress, just when you started your business during the beginning of COVID and everything, like what amazing progress you've made. I'll tell you right now, if we want to talk about comparison, you may have made much greater strides in a way shorter amount of time than I did my first year and a half in business. So that is awesome. Like if you look at your progress and what you've done every day, and I think you're obviously a big learner, you're very intentional about filling your mind with good things that are going to help you move forward. That really is key. If you focus on the negative and you focus on what can go wrong, or you focus on what you're not good at, even if it's just not right now, that's what brings you down. So such valuable advice with that. And you even said it right there, no matter how advanced and expert status somebody is, everyone faces some sort of imposter syndrome. What happens? I had Kenny Singh on, who is one of the creators of Divi, earlier on in the podcast, and something he talked about, because he worked for Google for a little while. I think either he had a part, I have to remember, I think he either had a part in setting up a talk on imposter syndrome, or he went to one thinking that maybe there would just be, a dozen people there or something. But there was like an auditorium full of hundreds of people from Google that all felt like this. And he had no idea they were all feeling like that. And it sounds like maybe you experienced that in the club, in some of our threads where we do openly talk about imposter syndrome. Suddenly you realize, okay, I'm not the only one here feeling this. Like we're all feeling this. And in a weird way, I feel it sometimes, even in my own club, when there's something that I don't know. And that's often the case. Like somebody just asked me a question recently, and I'm like, I feel like I should know this, but I don't. And I don't know everything. Luckily, I can turn to somebody in the club who is going to know that. And this is another point when it comes to, and I think this is really important for this topic of, starting early on and lessons learned early on in the journey. yeah, you may not be the best at SEO or design or content, but maybe you're really good at like development stuff, and that's your niche. That is what you're really good at. Or vice versa. Maybe you're really good at front end design. You're terrible at SEO and content. You can't write for anything, but man, you can design. Focus on that. Make that your area of focus and focus on what you're good at and what you like. I think that's key. And it sounds like you've already discovered that with your journey, right? With focusing on the areas of things that you love to do.
Yeah, definitely. I was just going to say that the other thing that I've as my business is building, as I'm growing as well. So the two go hand in hand. So I'll come across challenges or roadblocks. And I think, well, Jamila, are you going to push yourself forward with this, or are you going to stay back? So I found that as I'm growing with my business, my self-development as well is growing, which is a good thing.
It is a good thing. And whether that's intentional, like you start with your mindset and your personal growth, or whether it comes through, it really works both ways. It comes through life experience and more projects and working with clients. But I do think the more intentional you are about self-development early on, that's the best thing you can do. There was no coincidence that when I took my business to a whole nother level, it was when I suddenly started reading books and I suddenly started getting more intentional about personal development and those type of things that help me feel more confident with my sales, my services, and just my approach to wanting to solve problems. At the end of the day, what we're doing as web designers is solving a problem for our clients. So I think that's a big emphasis that a lot of people tend to overlook early on, is you just want to, how do I build the best website? Well, the best website for this client may look completely different than the best website for this client. The heart of what you're doing is solving a problem for a client, and then making and creating the quickest solution and strategy to solve that problem. So have you found that as well? Like I know your sales have looked a little bit different because it's referral based, but have you even thought about that recently with having more of a serve and solve problems over just a sell type of solution? Have you experienced any of that?
You mean on when it comes to designing the websites?
Or even
the content?
Even when somebody gets referred to you, maybe that's a better question. How do you approach that? Because it's a warm lead, which is awesome, but you still got to close the deal. How have you gone about closing some of those referrals?
Yeah. So, I learned a little bit about sales. I had to, because the very first one I had didn't go very well, the actual conversation on the phone. So I looked into sales, and I focus more when people are talking to me. I listen more now, right? So I'll ask them, I tend to listen more. I ask them, what it is they would like their website to do. And then whilst they're talking to me, I will pick out the problems, or, what they actually want to the outcome to be. And from then I look at their pain points, and I'll come back to, by the time I finish the conversation with them, I'll come back and I'll pick out all the problems which they've already told me, and I'll tell them the solutions. And then also meeting some of their expectations. Sometimes they don't realize that they need how to get traffic to their website and all that. So I'll pick out all those little things, and I'll come back and I'll break it down for them. And then they get like sometimes a bit overwhelmed with it all. And then I'll break it down and say, you don't need to do it all at once. We can do this in phases as well. So I've learned that, and I've learned, I can't remember what it's called, that there's I can approach people in different ways. I've learned that there's 4 different types of people.
DISC. Yeah.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, I learned that. It's very, very helpful, because the client that I'm working with at the moment is quite similar to me, where he's a very detailed person, So when I sent his proposal to him, I sent it with a Loom video, and beautiful. I went through all the details, explaining everything and that. And even after I did that, he still came back on the phone with me, and he still wanted to go through it again, So I learned about, like I said, DISC, which was really, really helpful. And I've started implementing that in all my proposals now, that when I send that proposal, I will send a Loom video explaining everything and that. And explaining what I can do with their website, picking out all the problems and, and the solutions and that. Yeah. So I did learn that bit.
Gosh, that's so well said, Jamila. That right there, you just laid out exactly the proven path and framework for sales calls, which is to listen first, take notes on what the challenges are, and lay out some solutions and strategies for that. And when those solutions and strategies look overwhelming for the client, you set it, you break it down into phases. Well, don't worry about all of this right now. Let's start with the website design. Like, let's start with the build, and even if you want to do content marketing and a blog eventually, we don't need to do that at phase 1. That can be phase 2. But first, before you do SEO and any PPC ads or anything like that, pay-per-click or any other marketing, let's just start with building a nice website. Then phase 2 will be the marketing end of things. And then we can add more pages and do more linking. Very well said, because that really is the key. Do you think, I do want to talk about DISC real quick for anyone who doesn't know about that, but the call that went badly, did you feel like you tried to sell too quick in a way, or what were some of the reasons that went bad?
I didn't have no sales experience. I didn't know what I was doing. Right? I had a questionnaire. It was way too long. Right. And so I got on the phone and I wanted to go through every single question. And I'm like, no, I'm supposed to be the one who's talking, right? Okay. And to go for that. So I did it the complete opposite, the wrong way around. And then I thought, well, that didn't go down very well. So I thought, well, let me go and research and find out the best way to do it. And that's exactly what I did. And so yeah. That's awesome. Well, I've put out a couple episodes on sales, so anyone can just search the podcast. And actually, if anyone doesn't know, for the podcast, you can just go to my website and click the little search icon, and then you can just put sales in there, and there'll be a bunch of resources that will come up for you. But that's exactly what I talk about as well, and what I learned. The more I listen, particularly at first, that was the key, and then suddenly the client feels like you're like having the best conversation ever, when actually you're not talking at all. They're just spewing out all their problems and issues and challenges and fears. And then when you come in with those pain points and offer some solutions, and even if you don't know exactly how to address them all yet, you can say, there's some areas here that I'm going to work on. I'm going to find out. If you don't have an answer to a question, there's nothing wrong with saying, I don't know, but I'm going to look into it. That is absolutely key. And then I don't know if you did this intentionally or not, but when they kind of are talking about their pain points and challenges, those are the keywords. Those are the keywords to use at the end of the conversation. This is just a sales tip that I learned, which is basically just called matching and mirroring. And if you just kind of regurgitate those words at the end and say, listen, I know your challenge was, an outdated website, so we want to give you a fresh, modern site. They're like, oh yes, that's what I wanted. Invaluable sales tips. And like you said, different personality types are a real thing. You do have to learn to sell differently to certain people. Now, when you have your process in place with proposals and all that stuff, it can kind of limit that. But when it comes to like a discovery call or these initial calls, this is really key. For anyone who doesn't know, DISC is basically just an acronym for there's different versions of it, but there's like dominant, there's interactive. I've heard SB, stable, quite a few different kind of S's, and then C is usually cautious. So the cautious people are very detail oriented often, and they need numbers. Those are like the bankers and the accountants and the bean counters, like completely opposite of me. I don't have a C in my body. I am like high I, very interactive. I enjoy this kind of thing. And I'm also high risk. I'm fine with some risk. I'm a little bit of dominant, but that's more reactionary. I'm a very high S, very loyal and very, stable and secure with what I'm doing. That is key to learn with sales, because each one of those personality types will be different. I know I had a high D dominant guy reach out to me one time, and it took me completely off guard, because he was this kind of tough, gruff, blue collar kind of dude who saw a little video I did for my old Chamber of Commerce where I just talked about my services. And he's like, hey, Josh, I saw your video. I liked it a lot. How much would you charge for a logo? And it was just like that quick. There was no hey, I'm Dan. It's nice to meet you. Whatever. It was just like, how much would you charge for a logo? And I was like, I don't. He's like, well, what are we talking? We talking 500, 1,000? And I was like, 750. And he was like, okay. He's like, okay, we could be able to do that. Let's move forward. It
It was like that. Like, I mean, it was kind of awesome, but he did end up being a pain in the ass a little while after that, but we got the project worked out. But those high Ds, those different personality types that might be different from you can be tricky. Or even like for me, when I talk to a C, somebody who is very numbers oriented, who needs to see the proof, that's where like results come into play, because they need to know, if I invest $3,500, what am I going to get in return? And that's where, just for an example, maybe you can use this, Jamila, when you like, let's say their average customer worth is like $500 a year. Well, you could say for $3,500, what's the math on that? As long as you land 6 people, which the website could do in less than a month or so, potentially, you've made your investment up, and then it's all profit from there. So sometimes those number folks need to have that type of approach, whereas, you know, it might change for dominant people versus interactive. So without getting too far along on this, that's fascinating. I find that fascinating. So
I found it worked for me anyway, so I learned a lot from that, which is good.
Yeah, that's awesome. What would you say has been, I know you've probably learned so many lessons, but what's like one of the biggest lessons that has come to mind for you as you've reflected maybe on your journey so far? What's maybe one of the top lessons you've learned?
There's so many. I think looking after myself. Looking after myself and looking after my mindset, definitely, because like I said, I love working. I love working. I get that from my father. Yeah. He's like, he's had so many different jobs, co-immersion and, different businesses, and, push that work ethic. And I just love working, but then I get too focused sometimes, and I shut out the rest of the world with it, but so I think definitely looking after myself and having fun, as well, Josh, because, my son will say, Mum, you're not fun. You don't do it. All you do is work, So now, now I've said, I'm not going to, why am I working? I'm working to live, right? So, I might as well have fun and enjoy my family as well. So, so now I try to have that more balance, and I think, and spend more time with my family. Because he said to me, why, if you're working so hard, you might, you could get ill, and then you're not going to make it to that beach, So, so taking care of my health, eating well, I think, those to me now is the first thing I should be doing, which is taking care of my mindset.
That's awesome. It's a balance, isn't it? Like, because I'm the same way. I'm a blue collar guy at heart. I could put my work boots on and just work a long time if I wanted to. Yeah. It helps that we're in an industry that is awesome and often is really fun, and it's creative, and it's rewarding too. I'm not sure what areas you've seen the most rewarding that are rewarding for you, but I know for me, like I often had to stop myself from working, and I definitely have to do that now. I have to be intentional about stopping, because I could just keep on going and going.
Yeah, I'll go till 4 o'clock in the morning, and I don't realize, so it's I have to stop doing that now and have balance, because I wouldn't do that if I was working a 9 till 5.
Right.
When 5 o'clock comes home, I've stopped working, so I need to do that, give myself that time to relax as well and enjoy. I do find it hard sometimes. I'm like, I could be doing this, but
it's when anyone leaves the 9 to 5 and becomes an entrepreneur or freelancer, you really join the 24/7, and it's hard to turn that off often. But it does. I found it's kind of like a muscle. Now that I've been doing it for well over a decade, for me, it's kind of like muscle memory. I just know when I need to switch it off. And there are certain seasons in life where there's busy times and there's less busy times. And I think that's fine too. Like if there's a bunch of projects that you need to get done, and there's a bunch of paychecks that are on the way that you just want to get closed out, I'm totally fine with working a little extra and doing that. But then seasons where, you can take a couple weeks and either have that time off or just have light days, that's fine too. There's definitely there's a big mental shift when you leave a 9 to 5 going freelance, isn't there? Because suddenly it's like, I should be working. It's 9 a.m. I should be working. That's what I found, at least.
Myself going back to 9 to 5 again. I mean, it did pay the bills before, but no. Yeah. I just love freelance work. I love the freedom that comes with it. I can be at home. I could take my laptop to another city and work. So I just love that freedom that it gives me. as well.
What's one of the most rewarding? I kind of mentioned this a little bit ago, but I want to ask a direct question on this. What are some of the most rewarding aspects of web design so far that you've experienced?
Maybe client feedback, helping people. The last client that I had, it was a life coach, and, just helping her to, achieve her goals and stuff, so that's one of the reasons why I created that Facebook group as well, so that I can still help to give that support. I just love helping, and I like pulling all the ideas that she had, pulling them all together for her and making them tangible, and she actually loving it as well. So I like that, bringing it to life, what they see, so yeah, and helping her.
That's awesome. I agree. As a web designer, I always got the most joy out of seeing the client reaction when a site was live. It even trumped some of the results that we might get later on, because that was cool. But there was something about all the hard work that we both put into this as a client and service provider relationship over the past month or a couple months or whatever, to see it done and out there. And they're like, gosh, I'm so pumped. I'm actually excited to send people to the website. That was always such a rewarding thing. So that is the beauty about this industry that we're in of web design. Yes, it comes with its challenges, its struggles, just like everything does, but the reward is awesome, because there's nothing like seeing creativity out there, right? It's some, and for anyone who hasn't been in a creative industry before, it's something new. I was kind of used to it being a musician, and I dabble around with art and stuff. So I was kind of used to seeing creativity realized, but in the form of web design, it's extra exciting, because you can literally plan it out, sketch it out on a piece of paper or whatever, build it with your client, and then release it out to the world. And then suddenly it's a baby that you're going to feed and watch it grow and do awesome things. So
that's the best thing.
Cool.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, one of the reasons I was really excited to have you on is for me, when it comes to the rewarding aspect of what I do now, it's this kind of thing. It's to hear what your takeaways from what I put out there, because like I said, I saw a lot more reward as far as projects being done and stuff as a web designer working with clients, because I saw the project done and I saw the reaction. Now I generally don't see the reactions until I start on my web design club, or unless somebody just happens to submit a video testimonial or something. So, just a little plug. If anyone is comfortable sending a video review for any of my courses or anything, please do. It means the world to me, and I watch them all. It really keeps me going. So Jamila, thank you so much for your time today. This was really cool. I have one final question for you, but I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time and for sharing your experience so far. Thank you for sharing your experience in the club and what my resources have helped you out with. Again, it fires me up, it lights me up, pumps me up. Before we get to that final question, where would you like people to go to find out more about you and check you out?
Well, they can go to my website, which is called thevirtualclick.com.
Awesome. Yep. And we'll have that linked. Man, so excited about what you have going on. And like I said, you've really, just in a short amount of time, you've really built something that I think you're going to be able to build successfully for a very long time. So I'm super excited for you. Last question.
Okay.
Somebody who is, and this is again why I love interviewing folks who are early in the journey, because you're not too far removed from those first feelings of just getting started. Somebody who's interested in getting into web design, and they asked you, what should I do when I get started? What should I focus on? What would you encourage them to think about if they're just getting started in web design?
I think if I had to do it again, I would join a course earlier, and try to get a mentor, because it's not just about the design of the website, it's the business side of it as well, so I wouldn't try to do it on my own again. I would get a mentor if you can, if you're able to, and to join a group, and to join like that, because it's so much easier, than doing it on your own. Get the help.
That's well said. I would echo that as well. And I should let everyone know, if anyone listening who doesn't know, I have a free guide that anyone can download to help get started in web design. You can just go to joshhall.co/get started, all one word, and it's free. It's just a little action plan depending on whether you want to learn web design or start your business. Anyone can go there and pick that up for free. It's kind of like a free coaching session with me that's about an hour long that I'll just guide you through the most important things to learn. So hopefully that helps. But Jamila, you have been awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. And again, this is just the start. I can't wait to see what things look like for you in 2022. Maybe we'll have to do an episode later this year to see where you're at that point. Because as much progress as you made now, gosh, I can't imagine what things are going to look like in a year from now. So keep at it. I'll see you in the club. Super excited for you. Thanks again for taking some time to chat.
Thanks, Josh.
Hey guys and gals, just wanted to pop in with a couple things before you head out. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to this podcast. I would love to hear your feedback, and it will also help other web designers find the show. Be sure to check out the show notes for this episode. Just go to joshhall.co, click on podcasts, and search this episode number, and you'll find all the links, descriptions, and resources we talked about. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, and you'll be notified when the next episode is live. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode.